Ms. Medori, I want to start with what you just ended with on direct examination, that flyer that you found outside of your polling center.
Sure.
Just to be clear, that was at 10 p.m., once the polls had already closed, that you found that flyer.
Yeah, it was probably a little after 10. That's when I locked the doors. So.
That's right, 10 p.m. was when you locked the doors, voting had closed, you walked outside, and that's when you found the flyer.
Right, that's where I parked my car.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I'm turning over an enlargement of that flyer that's already been in evidence. Ms. Medori, this is the flyer that you saw outside of your District 12 polling center.
Right, with the Midland seal and everything.
To be clear, at 10 p.m., that's when you took this flyer, right?
That's the only time I had seen a flyer like that the whole day. I patrolled the outside of the polling place, never seen it.
Exactly. The first time you saw that flyer was at 10, right?
Right, yeah.
But all day long, you were getting questions about voter eligibility from the citizens of District 12, weren't you?
I always get questions like that, yeah.
Actually, you normally get a few questions about voter eligibility.
Yeah, I get questions like that every year. People always want to know if they're eligible to vote. And it's the only place in New Hampshire I try to answer to the best of my ability.
Right, Ms. Medori, every year you get 1 or 2 questions about eligibility, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You said that this past election day was just like all the other election days, that it went just as planned. You actually had 20 or 30 people ask you about voter eligibility that day, didn't you?
Yeah, and I answered as best as I could.
I'm not asking about whether or not you answered them, Ms. Medori. I'm asking you whether or not that was unusual. And that was unusual for 20 or 30 people to ask you about voter eligibility, wasn't it?
I guess thinking back, it was a little strange, yeah.
Not only was it a little strange, that was far more people asking you about eligibility than had ever asked you about eligibility in any of the past elections that you worked, right?
Yep.
Ms. Medori, specifically, they were asking you about things on this flyer, weren't they?
No one mentioned the flyer to me. I had no idea that there was even a flyer out there until I went to my car.
Ms. Medori, I'm not asking you whether or not they mentioned the flyer itself. Specifically, those citizens of District 12 were asking you about something contained in this flyer, weren't they?
Oh, about like the education and stuff?
Exactly, Ms. Medori, about the education requirement. Of those 20 or 30 people that came up to you asking you about eligibility, you had quite a few ask you about this education requirement, didn't you?
Yeah, people always ask me about education requirements. Yeah, I answered. I told them that they didn't have to have a college degree to vote.
Exactly. You had to tell people in District 12 that they didn't need a college degree to vote.
Right. When they asked, I answered their question. You're right.
Ms. Medori, you're aware that over 1,000 people showed up to your polling center to vote that day, right?
That sounds about right. The lines were super long all day.
Ms. Medori, you told us that everyone that wanted to vote that day got a chance to vote.
My staff and I try to provide an opportunity to everybody who wants to vote. That's our job.
Ms. Medori, it's also your testimony that you saw a lot of voters leave that day without voting. Isn't it?
Right. Well, I mean, they had the opportunity to do that. You know, what they did with it, you know, I can't make them vote, but I provided the opportunity with my staff.
Well, exactly. You couldn't make them vote. So you saw voters come to your polling center, and you saw a lot of them leave without ever casting a vote. Right?
Yeah, there were like a lot of people who did vote, but you know, there were a couple who didn't.
That was just on election day, wasn't it, Ms. Medori?
Yeah, that's the only time you can vote.
I want to talk to you about that. And you actually yourself received a text message on the morning of election.
I did.
Notice you didn't tell us about that text message on direct examination, Ms. Medori.
No, I didn't believe it was true, so I deleted it as soon as I got it.
Well, exactly. You got a text message that you didn't think was true. Isn't that right?
Exactly.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I'm flipping over an enlargement of something that's also entered into evidence. Now, Ms. Medori, that text message that you got at 9 o'clock in the morning on election day, what was that text message? What?
Yeah, it said the same thing as that one.
Exactly, and you knew that it was false, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I run the polling place, so I would obviously know if it was on the 18th as well as the 17th.
Exactly, you run the District 12 polling place, so you know that it wasn't open on March 18th, right?
Right, or else, you know, if they didn't tell me.
You knew when you shut the doors at 10 p.m. on March 17th, that was the last time that anyone could cast a vote, right?
Right.
Ms. Medori, you actually know that other people in District 12 received this text message, don't you?
I don't know that.
Your testimony that you don't know that other people received this text message?
I don't remember hearing anything about other people receiving that text.
But you remember going back to the polling place on March 18th, don't you, Ms. Medori?
That I did.
You went back to the polling place at 6:45 in the morning, right?
Yes, sir.
When you went back to that polling place at 6:45 in the morning, there were a dozen people already lined up outside of the gym, weren't there?
Yeah, there were a few people there.
There were a dozen people lined up outside of the gym at 6:45 in the morning on the day after voting had already closed, right?
You're right.
You asked those people what they were doing, didn't you?
Right, because, I mean, you can't vote on 2 days. Like,
That's right, Mr. Doherty. You told them, hey, voting's already closed, right? Well, when you told them that, those people seemed angry, didn't they?
yes, they did.
When you told them that, that group of a dozen people that was lined up outside of the gym, they seemed confused, right?
They did.
Mr. Doherty, I want to talk about why you might not have mentioned that on direct examination. About 3 weeks ago, you got a call from the Midlands Election Commission, right?
Sure.
You got a call from the Midlands Election Commission telling you that you might be banned.
Objection. Hearsay.
This is going straight to the effect on the listener. We don't care about the truth about whether or not she's actually going to be banned from working in the polling center.
So your objection is that this is hearsay,
Yes, Your Honor.
and your response is that it's not hearsay because it's not for the truth of the matter?
Yes, Your Honor, if I may proffer the statement.
Well, before you proffer your statement, let me hear your argument as to why you believe it's not hearsay.
It's not hearsay, Your Honor, because we're not offering it for the truth of the matter asserted. We're simply offering it for the effect on the listener. And this goes to the witness's bias, that she thinks, well, I won't offer the proffer the statement unless it's on the 2, Your Honor.
And your response?
Your Honor, they are using the statement for the truth of the matter asserted that the Midlands Election Commission told her something. They're using that for its truth value.
Your Honor, that's not how hearsay works. We're not asserting the truth of that statement. We're simply offering it for the effect on this listener, the potential bias that it could bring to her testimony in today's case.
So is this then for impeachment purposes?
Your Honor, we're impeaching the witness's credibility, absolutely. But we're simply not offering the statement for the truth of the matter. It is absolutely non-hearsay. We're simply offering it for the effect on the listener.
Statement will be admissible for impeachment purposes only, not for the truth of the matter. Jury instructors will follow.
Yes, Your Honor.
3 weeks ago, you got a call from the Midlands Election Commission, Ms. Doherty, and they told you that you might be banned from ever hosting the polling center in District 12 again, right?
No.
Your testimony that your friend that called you from the Election Commission didn't tell you that you might be banned?
No, I got a call from a friend. The Midlands Election Commission didn't call me about it. I got a call from a friend.
Your friend works for the Midlands Election Commission, right?
Yeah, I mean, she does, but she was telling me that as like a rumor, you know, like nothing has actually come of that.
So your friend was telling you about a rumor that she heard in the Midlands Election Commission office that you might be banned from ever hosting that polling place again, right?
She did tell me that was a rumor, yeah.
You plan on clearing your name, don't you?
Well, I mean, if they ever accuse me of anything, then yeah, I'll explain what happened.
You already plan on clearing your name, don't you?
Objection, Your Honor. I ask that this witness be able to finish her answer.
That's fine, Your Honor. Mr. Doherty, continue, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that if anything comes of it, then obviously I'll clear my name. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I did everything to the best of my ability on March 17th and before that.
Exactly, you think that you did everything to the best of your ability and that nothing went wrong that day, right?
Well, I don't think that. I know that. I know I did my job to the best of my ability.
Mr. Doherty, you're here today testifying for the defendant in a case in which he's being charged with election fraud, right?
Sure, I didn't do that.
You know that that election fraud is being allegedly charged as happening in the district that you control, right?
I don't control it. I just make sure that everybody has an opportunity to vote.
You know that that election fraud is being accused as happening in District 12, right?
I do know that.
And you were the person in charge of that polling center, weren't you?
The polling place, yeah, I didn't have anything to do with any flyers or anything like that.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Reader?
No, Your Honor. I just ask that this witness be excused.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense calls Mayor Max Heisman to the stand.